You got it.
Chris, fine.
What's that?
Can you hear us fine? Okay.
No sweats.
Sounds good.
Signed into this.
Yeah, yeah.
To my blind side.
That's all right.
You're down on that end, you're part of it. Scorpion. Did you invite you stripping down there? at the park? Did you invite you stripping down there at the park?
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. We actually take the timer off.
The cord got burned by the fire. Underlining damage.
Insurance.
Think we're ready?
Go for it.
Hi Deb, you wanna, all the people who are zoomed in, you wanna start with Deb identifying yourself?
Deb Tankway, town clerk, town bookkeeper.
I'm Laura Stone with VTrans.
Bob Kleinfelter with VTrans.
Daniel Rondo, Planning Commission.
Martha Sylvester, resident.
Phil Marquette, select board.
Ned Connell, town administrator.
Scott Breyer, select board.
Dave Gallup, select board.
Attorney Bennett, Planning Commission.
That's everyone. Everyone, I'd like to call Monday, January 3rd, 2022, meeting to order at 6:02 PM. Do I have any changes or additions to the agenda?
I would like to add discussion since it keeps getting put on the back burner and we're coming up to town meeting discussions, ATV ordinance article. And then. Oh, there's another one I was gonna say.
Want to add that as 7A?
Yeah, you don't have any other business here, so.
Yeah.
I had a quick question too on the letter to New England Waste Services.
we'll do this.
Is that gonna be 7B?
Yeah.
Okay, 7B. Okay. Moving on to number 3, public comment. Anybody have any public comment? No public comment. We'll move to number 4, V-Trans Public Informational Meeting for Coventry BF 0251.
You can let Laura talk about that, Mary.
Thanks, Ned. So I'm going to try to share my screen here. I have a PowerPoint. If you
Yep.
could enable that.
I mean. Okay, go ahead, Laura.
Okay. There we go. So hopefully you can see my screen now.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the regional concerns meeting for Bridge 132 over Stony Brook on Vermont Route 14 in Coventry. I'm Laura Stone. I'm the VTrans scoping engineer. Also with us tonight is Bob Kleinfelter. He's going to be the design project manager. So after this moves out of the scoping phase and into the design phase, Bob will be taking over the project. Purpose of the meeting tonight, we really just want to provide an understanding of our approach to the project, talk about the constraints around the bridge that we looked at during the scoping study, discuss the selected alternative and the alternatives we looked at in the scoping report, and provide an opportunity to ask questions and voice concerns. I'm happy to take questions as they arise. You're welcome to interrupt me, or I'm happy waiting till the end. So here's a location map. The bridge is this green star right here. It's located just north of Spencer Hill. Here's an aerial view. It's, it's a culvert, so it's a buried structure. It's one of those structures that you might not even know that you're going over a bridge when you drive over it. So it is located right at this Blake Road, which I believe it's no longer a town highway. I believe this has been given to the property owner. So these are 2 private drives here. So meeting overview, I'll briefly discuss the project development process. Again, we'll give a project overview, so the existing conditions of the bridge, the alternatives that we considered in the scoping report, and then we really want to discuss our selected alternative tonight. We'll also talk about maintenance of traffic, the schedule, so when you can expect to see this in construction, summary, and again, questions at the bottom, but I'm happy to take questions whenever. So this is actually, we are a little bit, this has been initiated. I should have my yellow line at project definition here, but this is just a chart of our project development process. And this really just shows that we're at a really early stage in the design process. So the project's been funded. We're in this project definition phase. This is where we identify the environmental resources, the cultural resources. We evaluate alternatives. We have this public participation piece, which is where we are tonight. And ultimately, we want to gain consensus toward our selected alternative. So after this meeting tonight, this is called Project Defined. This is when the project will move into design. That's when we're going to start quantifying the areas of impact, go through the permitting process, start the right-of-way process, develop plans, estimates, and specifications. After project design, a contract will be awarded and the project will move off into construction. So we are at a really early stage here. So here's a picture looking north over the bridge. The roadway is classified as a major collector. It's currently an 8-foot span corrugated galvanized metal plate pipe arch. It's 108 feet long, and it has approximately 4 feet of fill over the culvert. It is owned by the state of Vermont, so there's no town funds involved in this project. It's 80% federally funded and 20% state funded. And the culvert was constructed in 1959. Also, kind of important to point out in this picture, you can see all the aerial utilities that go through the project. This is a kind of a high voltage transmission line here, so it's possible that this is going to need to be relocated as part of the project, to be determined in the design phase. So here's a picture looking south over Bridge 132. Again, there's aerial utilities throughout the project location. So existing conditions, the existing culvert, it's in serious condition. There's large holes throughout the culvert invert. So the invert is the bottom of the culvert. The worst areas at the center of the pipe, where what remains of the invert has broken off and it's resulting in no support for the barrel above. There's heavy rusting throughout the culvert and the barrel above the haunch line. So kind of above, kind of like that water line is really rusting throughout. The outlet end of the pipe has heavy undermining, resulting in minor settlement of the pipe. Additionally, the existing culvert does not meet the minimum hydraulic standard or the calculated bank full width. So it is undersized hydraulically. And Vermont Route 14 through the project area is substandard in width for the speed and traffic volumes present. So here's a picture of the inside of the culvert. There's the culvert barrel. Culvert is rated a 3. It's in serious condition. There's the inlet of the pipe. And here's a picture looking downstream. So in terms of resources here, there's wetlands located in the project area, and this is an important area for wildlife habitat. So our final project needs to be able to pass aquatic beings. So here's a layout, a bird's eye view showing the existing condition. So this is if you're kind of in an airplane right above the culvert looking down. So the brown section, that's Vermont Route 14, that's the roadway. The lighter brown areas, those are the existing driveways in the project area. This gray rectangle here that goes at a kind of a diagonal underneath the driveways, that's the existing pipe. Also important to note these red lines, this red dashed line on either side of the road, that is the state-owned right-of-way, with these purple lines being property owner lines. Wetlands, I had mentioned wetlands. So this line here, this black line with the little triangles, those are the wetland areas. Design criteria and considerations. There's an average daily traffic of 2,400 vehicles per day. Design hourly volume, so that's your peak hour volume or your rush hour traffic. You'd see about 270 vehicles per hour and a percent trucks of 14.9%. So that is, it's quite high truck traffic. So the alternatives we considered, we looked at no action. Obviously, this is in serious condition, and maintenance is going to have to be done on this in the next 10 years. So that was kind of striked off the options. Next, we looked at a slip liner. That's when you put a smaller pipe into the existing pipe and then grout the space in between. It would result in a 5-foot diameter waterway opening, which is about a foot less than existing. The existing pipe doesn't meet the minimum bankful width or hydraulics, and so a slip liner also would not meet hydraulics and would actually make that worse. There would be roadway overtopping at the design flood, which is a 50-year storm event. The existing substandard typical section, which includes 2.5-foot wide shoulders, would be maintained, and a slip liner would see about a 50-year design life. The next option we looked at was a full bridge replacement. Full bridge replacement would be a new precast box. It would be, the structure would be, size would be increased to a 12-foot span. So it would be a 12-foot span by a 6.75-foot height waterway opening. The standard typical section here is 11.4, which is 11-foot travel lane. So 2 11-foot lanes with 4-foot shoulders. So when we construct a new structure to a 75-year design life, we do construct to that minimum standard. So our selected alternative here was a new precast concrete box. It would be, like I said, a 12-foot concrete box with a 6.75-foot height waterway opening. The invert, so the bottom of that box would have a natural bottom. We would actually fill it with stone for that aquatic organism passage. The roadway width would be an 11-foot, 4-foot typical section to meet the minimum standards, and a new box would have a 75-year design life. So this is that proposed, actually, this is a typo. This should say 4-foot shoulder here, and I apologize about that, but this shows those 11-foot travel lanes, and then there would be a 4-foot shoulder on either side. So here's the proposed layout. So this is similar to the existing layout. The brown is the roadway, the lighter brown color is our drives. And this really shows that wider new structure here. There would be a box placed with new wing walls. Again, there would be this would have a 75-year design life. And and meets the 12-foot minimum bankful width requirements for hydraulics. Here's the proposed profile of the road. It's a little tricky to see because it's right on this 790-foot elevation mark here, but it's pretty flat through here, and we're not going to be raising the road or lowering the road. We're just going to match the existing conditions here in terms of the vertical profile. So maintenance of traffic options considered, and I think this is probably what you guys are more interested in. We looked at an off-site detour. We looked at phased construction. So that's when you build one side of the structure at a time while maintaining traffic on the existing structure. Then we looked at a temporary bridge. Ultimately, what we selected here was a road closure. So we are proposing to close the road during construction. The detour would be chosen and signed by the state. It would be a 3-day closure, so like a long weekend closure. And the shortest regional detour route is 14.5 miles end to end. So this is the shortest detour that, the shortest regional detour on state routes that we're showing. It is Vermont Route 14 to Vermont Route 105 and US 5 back to Vermont 14. So this has a through route of approximately 5 miles. The detour route, so the detour route is the route along the blue line of 9.8 miles with that end-to-end distance. So the end-to-end distance, that's if you're on one side of the culvert and you need to drive around all the way to the other side of the culvert of 14.5 miles. So we are aware that this intersection at US Route 5 and 105 is fairly tricky for larger trucks to traverse, if not impossible. So there's going to have to be kind of a robust outreach to the trucking community. We are aware there's some businesses in the area, Casella, Carroll, Pike, Hawkins, the lumber mill. And so we are going to be working with the businesses in the area as the closure gets closer, so everybody knows that this is happening. So like I said, we're really early in the project development stage construction. We have this in our budget for the spring or the summer of 2024 with a total cost estimate of $2.6 million. So project summary, we're going to be putting in a new box here with traffic maintained on an off-site detour. Will be a 3-day bridge closure. A larger 12-foot span box is going to be put in for improved hydraulics. The roadway will be widened slightly on either side to provide 4-foot shoulders. So we'll have a 75-year design life. Will be possibly a utility relocation for construction. Right-of-way will be needed. And actually, that's a good point to mention here. And I'm not sure if any of the property owners from either of those drives are here tonight, but something that's going to happen as part of that's going to need to happen for construction of that culvert is we're going to have to relocate those driveways during construction. So we will be extending those farther away from the culvert as a temporary condition. So that's all I have. There is this website here at the top that will have tonight's presentation, the scoping report, all future plan sets. So as conceptual plans come out, preliminary plans come out, any future presentations that happen here will be put on this website. So I guess I'll open this up for questions and comments at this time.
Could you explain that $2 million cost?
Yeah, so the $2.6 million. So that's total cost. So that's the permitting costs, that's the design costs. Currently, we've been seeing quite an increase in construction costs and the cost of concrete, of rebar, of steel. Just like everywhere else, we're seeing higher costs for materials. And so we did inflate our cost to take in consideration kind of what we've been seeing right now. But in terms of like a 12-foot span concrete box that's 110 feet long, those can be fairly pricey.
Kind of baffling. We've done a couple. I know they're only 60 to 80 feet long, similar size. And I mean, we're doing those with D grants out of Vermont over roads. And when I see that cost, it just overwhelms me. Another thought I had is, has V-Trans thought of replacing the other one at the Alderbrook Road? I've seen that head wall flopping around in the storm.
So I guess I'm unaware of that culvert. You said Alderbrook?
Yeah, right at the junction. Would have been put in the same time, 59, when that road was built, probably.
I was gonna ask that question because I didn't see it marked on the map.
So I'll look into that and get back to you.
Just thinking, I don't know why you wouldn't do both at the same time in the same age frame. They can't be in much better condition up there. Then you're gonna impact our residents anyway, be one time. I
That's a
guess
good-
you probably want to do one at a time.
Two for the.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, there's so many needs around the state and we have, 200 culverts that 6 feet and greater that need to be replaced right now. And so, we really pick the worst of the bunch because there's only so much funds that we have to work with. But I will look into it and I'll get back to you.
Thank you.
And that is something too, if there's a structure that needs replacing or is continually an issue for the town. The best piece of advice that I can give you is kind of keep speaking up about it to your regional planners. And just advocate for it.
It's your AOT's issue.
Yep.
Another thought, have you reached out to Newport yet on that truck detour, and why wouldn't you go to Main Street? You're never gonna make that corner down there by the church.
So I haven't reached out to Newport at this point. So trucks traveling up US Route 5 will be able to continue into Newport. It's really just this turn here. Like I said, I think there's going to have to be a robust.
They won't, I don't think the city will let them down Main Street, that much truck traffic down Main Street. But yes, that's at the Gillette station where that turn is.
You'll never make it.
No, you won't make it. And I was gonna bring that up since you brought it up. The only other thing would be, that, like you said, it's robust, getting out to everybody and just signing. The only thing that I would think of, it's a lot longer, but pushing, making sure your truck traffic's going up over 58 instead of that way.
Yeah, as long as they know about it ahead of time, and that's really the most important part, is that trucks aren't, blindsided by this. So as long as they know about it ahead of time, maybe some of these businesses that use trucking aren't open on weekends, but it's 3 days. And so this is, usually for a culvert project, we look at 7-day closures, even longer, but we did feel because of that intersection that this really warranted kind of that 3-day closure.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be the local guys I have to worry about. It's gonna be all the people not from around here that's gonna plug that up there.
Yep. Yeah, and we can take a look at that in design, possibly. I don't know if there's a good spot to put like a PCMS board, kind of further outside the project limits where we would kind of catch those truckers' eyes, let them know that, that turn isn't available at the time. But it is something we're aware of and we'll look into.
It's still doing as much. I don't think there's any sign to do.
A lot of times we'll put a uniformed traffic officer out for these closures as well, just since signage doesn't work for a lot of people. So that's something that would likely happen here at the discretion of the resident engineer, but they could be strategically placed to intercept trucks if they're going to cause a problem getting stuck.
Does anybody else have any questions for Laura or Bob? Well, thank you for the update. Keep us informed.
Thank you. Yes, you've been an easy crowd, so thank you for that.
So that's at 24, is that like mid-year, midsummer, early? Missed the-
Yeah, it's 2024, and you know, as it gets closer to that time, we'll kind of know when it's going to be happening. I don't expect this is the kind of project that's, you know, going to start June 1st and go all the way through October. It's going to be more of a short duration construction project, so it's kind of up in the air at this point if it'll start in the spring or later in the summer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 5, review of draft 2023 budget road.
Roads. That's the double-sided sheet.
Something, no,
David emailed me some changes, and I made them just printed copy into the copy I can put on the screen for people. Sweet.
one thing I'll year or two, it's getting actuals in there.
For,
I got growth salaries, but all the actuals in it.
that's because it was never, hang on, let me go back. Because it was never given to me, so I will,
That's
That's
not,
what I'm-
that's not. gonna-
yeah. And I don't think there's winter has been charged yet. I'm not sure. But we'll find out.
So go right down there to your summer.
Right there.
Somebody lumped all the salaries for the summer. Yeah, road commissioner for John. Those have to be separated up into. See what I mean?
Yeah, right there, the 23,000.
No. The 59, 978 back in 20.
Okay,
That has to be separated out.
That's no separated.
That one needs to be separated.
more than likely, those are gonna be just split in half, 50 and.
Correct.
Okay,
It shouldn't be all lumped into the summer and then not shown as an actual.
one of the biggest changes was the addition of two of them were the 5,000. The air catch on pole replacements. And that would have been,
You don't need to.
Now, equipment rental summer
That's crazy. 2.5 million.
is,
We could do that for 700,000. It'd be happy. It might take us 6 days. You know what?
Probably pay
We'll have a
for about
barbecue
14.
for every truck driver. They could park.
I wanted to ask if they were gonna pay for 14.
So another thing on that grant I brought up, on the engineering grant,
the 16,000.
yeah. So, can't remember,
That's on page 4, by the way.
yeah. So I thought Amanda said that it shouldn't show things as anticipated,
I do.
but we have received a grant already.
This fiscal year, this coming fiscal year though.
We received it, that was finalized July 15th.
But is that, oh, you need for the actuals? What we're talking about?
Yeah, I'm not sure where to put it, is what I'm saying. I'm not sure if we put it in as a budget.
So if it's for this fiscal year, we're already in it.
Okay. So you have to put it in. Sure what it's-
And that I could see doing because it's something.
Without receiving the grant monies, right?
That'll be a part of the question, I guess.
You're contractually obligated to send us the money since we have a contract with them, so it's essentially here. Is that the 9,400 David you're talking about, or that?
No, that's the 16,000 we got for the engineering grant.
What line item?
Yeah, so that would go under 990, under the 82,000. Yeah.
Where did I see your, oh, we had a,
So you already have it here. 16,000 budget. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I see.
it was the other one. Grants need was top,
Yeah.
29501.
Yeah, there's another one there. 9,400 budget, 9,400 budget. No,
I'm assuming that we will get some more for that, but I can take that out.
That was what? That was from local roads, VDA.
And that was the culvert under, what was it? That was from NVDA local roads.
Okay, so I don't think we've spent money under that. Not sure.
I have not seen it, and that would have ended up under activity as of November 30th.
Anything else you guys see?
Oh. The salary, you said to leave it the
Yeah,
same, but that won't take into the
Cost of living
the
adjustment.
raise that we have going across the board.
I'm fine. I think I'm paid well for what they are responsible for. I think it's a high amount.
So let me ask you this, somebody else, this isn't going anywhere, but, because I'm going through this somewhere else that I'm seeing it, is if somebody else was coming into your position, would they be thinking the same thing?
They should be, because the more you pay, the less summer maintenance you're gonna have. Your work is in the summer.
Oh, that's the answer, I was just wondering.
Yeah, and eventually, hopefully, we'll have,
You're tired in the winter, but you work in the summer. That's just the way it is. No, I think I'm good there and really want to take care of John moving forward.
Mhm.
Huge asset to the town. He doesn't need to hear that.
I don't think I've ever met him. We should have him come in.
Should have him come in.
Should.
I don't know him, you?
Nope.
We should have his phone number.
He waves, he waves at me.
You know, like when I was looking at Jan's cost. Do we have that one? His bill.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
it's over here.
70,000. it's in the warrants.
74,000.
So when I'm looking at that, you know, he's the type of kid that's walking by Jan and he sees that. It's all me and me. And I'm thinking 32 grand. John's. It's all me and me. You know, so we don't know. I mean, 32.
Yeah.
but- Anything else? We're gonna get some actuals in there, so.
Yeah.
So it looks normal for the town report.
For the salaries, yes.
Winter, we're missing all the winter ones.
And we'll, the summer ones, for this fiscal year, we will move some portion up to actual for winter.
Well, I mean, John and mine's are easy, you just,
Yeah, probably 10% from that 23,307, move that up there, a similar amount from John.
Always, I'd probably give you the exact numbers.
Well, I'm not sure we have them as of November 30th.
Sure. You'll have it by the time it's printed.
But, well, I would say, no, we shouldn't, okay.
Because we're already in the first of the year, you should have those actual numbers for labor. For November 30th.
Yeah,
All right, for December 30th, okay.
yeah, well, I could take them 2 seconds to
Yeah.
read those numbers.
It's in payroll.
Okay.
Like I told you, like, I think we should be in line for 2-for-1 raises. We'll have to,
What is that from?
Mike, from what, how many?
2-for-1 monies for AOT.
Oh,
Is that what we usually get?
it's usually, it used to be called 2-for-1. I think it's closer to, I think it's closer to
Did,
90%.
Yeah.
has David gotten the figure together of this, any surplus money? Do we even know what that?
I remember my other business was talking about the morning. And you don't have any draft of that yet, but that's a big part of it is those surplus monies to know.
Well, because we know we're already a little short for what we've already allocated. And I know we're planning on putting whatever money we decide to put into these different.
Yeah,
So I think I just noticed, was we lumped all that money into,
So you're onto the general now.
I'm bouncing around, I'm sorry.
I'm back on the real one. I think this one's fine for now.
Yeah, I think roads is fine.
Roads is fine, yeah.
okay.
So I was over here on the recreation department, we lumped all that 25,000 in Coventry there.
Yes,
Oh, it's just, yeah.
I think it should be divided up. Now that we should have a better accounting of what that cost. I haven't seen any of those figures. But we should have a rough idea what that event cost. Where
Wasn't it
we,
like $20,000?
yeah, it was.
We were like
There's a few
3,000.
grand less.
but what I'm saying is, we might,
21 something.
know ways to not spend as much next time too. I'd like to see it more focused, maybe not all on that one event. Maybe, you know, if other things arise, maybe they
Yeah,
want to.
split it up between the rec events and sponsorships in Coventry. Put some of it into the next line item for events and sponsorships.
Just saw maybe if they wanted to do a winter carnival or something like that too, you know, that's, it wouldn't be all lumped into that one thing.
Would you suggest like, let's just say 22,000 for Coventry Day and take that 3,000 and put it towards the next line item down?
3, 4, 5, be 55.5. for the
Yeah.
next.
What were our actual expenses?
It was,
I mean,
it was around 20.
For Coventry Day, $21,623.36.
Is that what the number is there?
Yeah,
'Cause
but
I
what-
can't read it.
What I'm asking is, what are our expenses? You get your 7,500 for fireworks. Right?
Yep.
You got advertising, printing, insurance, the police.
What was the advertising bill? That's something we-
Oh, the jumpy houses, the train.
Yeah,
What about the alcohol and the bands and stuff too this year now?
So
We
the
paid the bands.
band, but the alcohol was paid your own and all the food was pay your own.
Yeah,
So there's no freebies.
we didn't pay anything to.
Or it's
those.
Coventry Day for 25 grand. We fed everybody.
Yeah,
That was a big, that
well,
was.
I'm not being negative about it,
No.
I was just trying to disperse the money a little better in case they want to do something else. What was the other thing? Something a number of people mentioned to me is if we don't have a ban on alcohol, why are we hiring that out? Why couldn't you have a BYO?
the control,
Yeah, I agree with that.
it's the control, you can't control a BYOB like you can with having a garden.
Oh, so they have to, those bartenders are,
Yes,
oh, okay.
I mean, I'm assuming for the Coventry Day, we didn't allow outside alcohol. to be brought in, right? That was.
there, well, that happened, there was some caught down here on Main Street,
Yeah,
that they kicked them
And
out.
I don't think they made jack for money either.
No, I mean, I was throwing money, just click all that.
Those sound like to drink.
But change Coventry Day to 22,000, I think
Yeah,
And then the ones right below it,
would that bring it to 35?
5,500.
55? What if
so it'd
we
be
bump that up?
22.
What if we made it 22 and 6?
Sure.
All right,
The other thing, did we generate any revenue? I mean, so now that that became successful and the downtown was successful, we charge people.
The way I understand it, us as a municipality cannot charge and bring revenue. That was where the parents club came in, because they were the ones getting any, with the craft fair part.
So were they able to generate funds? They
I couldn't
were-
tell you the number, but they were able to, because they
Charge
charged
25 bucks
how
for a
much per
spot.
spot and that type of thing.
Okay.
also, there's additional long-term revenue for the merchants that were there. I know some of the.
Yeah,
craft
so
vendors-
the vendors there, so there's the revenue for the parents club, because there's a charge for the vendor spot, but then you had vendors coming in that are making.
Making money
money off of
additional
it,
for
additional
Christmas
money.
time.
So it's not necessarily, the municipality is not making money, but
It's economic
Communities.
development for the long term
Bring
for
it
the
in.
community.
and to my knowledge, as a municipality, we are not able to charge for stuff like that.
So what does Newport do when they do an event?
It's not charged, it's not charged, like July 4th, that type of thing, there you don't charge fees.
It's probably big enough that those people expect to make money.
They also have a local option tax, so like 1%.
Newport doesn't.
Newport doesn't have it. I thought-
No local option taxes over here like there is on the other side of the mountain.
There's a pile over there.
Yep.
There's on top of each other also, which,
There's a chat.
sorry.
Is that a difference?
Yeah, I'm not sure that makes a difference, but yes, thank you, Martha.
She says Newport's a charter town.
Charter town, yeah.
See, the planning commission's bleeding us for another $88.50.
Okay.
Everybody went up to 5.9%.
So before we jump to that.
See, I think I brought that up the last time, stipends getting those percentage raises. Is that, I don't think that's happened in the past. I don't know if I necessarily,
I think your island stipend should be getting cost of living raises.
No, I
It's
don't
not a
think so
salary,
either.
it's not a.
Correct.
like-
yeah,
Okay,
Should not be a job that you're doing for money.
Correct.
all right,
Yeah, so put those back to,
just what they have been in the past,
okay,
all the stipends that way.
all right.
So before we kind of
Except
move
you
on the
raised
emergency
them.
services,
I didn't want to.
I got a question on the
Emergency services, yes.
So for the sheriff's department, what tacked on an additional 25, almost 25K for our, I guess, spending for last year
On what?
for the sheriff's department?
Oh, sheriff's
Oh, an
department,
extra
so
eight.
Yeah,
they,
I guess it was
so
budgeted for 10K and we're sitting at 34.
this is what Jen was here for the last one, although it came up to meeting prior, was she did a new, like, 8 hours a week instead of 3, right?
yeah, it was an additional.
She's proposing an additional 8 hours a week for this coming fiscal year.
And so the 25K reflects that?
Mhm.
Yes,
So,
So for more ATV patrol, more
Town patrol.
town patrol.
so from 3 hours per week to 8
8
hours.
hours per week. So we, okay. And so the 34K for this year, that was because of what additional emergency services that they had to provide, and that was above and beyond.
I mean, on the actual spending,
Oh, where
Yeah.
it says. 30
that is a question on if that's correct or not. I don't know if that's the right number.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with the
So-
34,209, it's actually the ambulance.
That may have multiple things in it, like, I will check with David. on
I
what that is.
believe that 34,209.
I just think it's in the wrong line, Ed.
Oh, you think it's on the, for the Newport ambulance?
Yeah,
should be.
yeah,
Yeah,
That sounds like the number that we just signed.
Yeah, it seems more in line with it.
well, it's 36,454 is what we signed, but
Is it?
yeah, so see right here, 36,5.
yeah,
The actual could be
Oh, okay.
34,209.
all right.
I wouldn't think the sheriff's department
No.
is, she has a hard time even reaching her budget and putting the time in. I think they've done better since Jen's taken over, but
They're doing much better. But they're
They're
still,
putting their time in because they don't have enough hands.
they didn't,
No,
they didn't
they're
have,
They're just short.
I'll make sure
So
that's.
if they're short now and they're not bidding.
How are they gonna get eight?
Exactly.
How are they
How are
gonna
they-
generate another $15,000 worth of work?
Are they high?
I'd like to hear that from Jen.
So that's what she was here last week for. We
Yeah.
disappeared.
I don't think they're short this year though. We should get an.
I think they are getting better, but they have been short.
There's some people like Bobby Bowen, you know, Bob Bowen. He's going back to become a sheriff again. He retired, you know. Yeah, yeah, he's going back to become a sheriff. Yeah, they're hiring if you want a
Okay.
part-time job.
I think that's
Oh,
quite-
okay.
I think that's quite a jump for 1 year.
Well, she has brought it up in the last
Yeah.
two.
And there has been sitting, so that's the one comment I get regularly is that more service.
But I don't,
The downfall though is a lot of our weekly time, I think, is being eaten up by all the paperwork. Because you look at the schedules, they're doing reports for 2 hours.
Yeah, we're-
So this isn't just patrol time even, huh?
No,
That's all time.
Hmm.
And we lose about 25% or so for not administrative costs, but paperwork.
And does that include transit from the sheriff's department to Coventry as well?
I think it
by the
does.
time
if
they
you look
leave.
at it, yeah, from wherever they're at.
so that's another thing I don't agree with. So-
I don't. and-
So I see,
yeah.
give me an example, so I see one of them coming up to the Four Corners from airport. So that's probably Kyle. So are we paying him to leave his house in Irisburg, come up through Irisburg, go through there, say that's a patrol?
Same
I don't know, it
with
seems
same
like
with
quite-
the
Seems like. quite
resource
a-
officers.
How much you want to police it?
I don't,
They are the police. I know it's almost, but
I think,
I mean, I just think we have some hotspots that are kind of grueling, so maybe those areas are patrolled more than the rest of them.
I will say that I've been looking at the reports, they are hitting Coventry Station, Airport Road. They're still hitting down here at Martha's now.
I'd like to- can we table that and discuss
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Sure.
It's,
Yeah.
it's in there.
The,
I think too, it'd be nice to have some control on the timeframe that you're doing.
I agree.
or maybe we can make the schedule and say, hey, we want you.
That's what I mean.
You're on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but if you don't want it all in writing because then people would know,
Yeah.
so you kind of want a little bit of a surprise, right?
But I mean, if you got those 3 guys going down Coventry Station 70 miles an hour every day at 6 o'clock.
I did see them up there in Coventry Station.
They did, yeah. I saw them. I'm not knocking them. I just think it's a pretty big increase.
So I think maybe what we need to do is reach out to Jen, apologize for the last meeting and see if she can come to the next one.
I'm sure she can zoom into the next one.
Send her
The,
flowers.
I know a lot of the time that the guys are, especially for the Martha stops, are, he's pulling out of the school and he nails some, because he's also the,
Well, no, I've seen them sitting down there at the,
oh, yeah, they sit down there too. But a lot of times, there were a couple of times where, you could see where, time left school was like, 3:59, 4:03, stop at a speeder. And it's just like, you had to see him at the turn. You couldn't have even moved in that amount of time, so. But yeah, no, I'll check in with Jen and I'll make sure that she understands the concerns about ability to staffing and the patrol times.
So the other thing I'm seeing right under that is your dry hydrants. You're showing an expense of $42.85.
That's not right.
Did they just get shifted down to, is that what happened?
Yeah, because that's about what the monthly
Wait,
sheriff's department fee would equate to, because they're usually about $1,100 a month, and if this is for 4 months.
All
I
right.
think that's exactly what happened. The 34,209 needs to go up a spot, and the 52,8558 needs to move up to the sheriff's department.
I think I know exactly what that is. Okay.
Just a question for my edification. Is the Orleans Fire Department like a backup for us? Is that why?
Yeah,
guys
so
we never
Newport,
spend anything?
well, so Orleans, Newport covers 3/4 of Coventry, Orleans covers bulk of River Road and Webster Road,
Okay,
and that corner.
gotcha. So if they never get called, we don't get charged.
Well, no, we do have a contract with them, so this number is a contract number, just like the city.
So why don't we have actual limits? Why don't?
Because that has not been paid yet to Orleans.
Even in 2020?
Oh, yeah, 2020, there should be an actual there. That was done last year.
Those are all based on 3-year rolling.
Yeah, the 3-year rolling call averages
Gotcha.
with
But it
10%
is,
half
it is
of the
true
call.
when you see these and you don't see anything in those line items. It looks terrible
Yeah,
when we're sending them.
those actuals need to be
I will
Hey,
find out this.
so-
fine tooth comb.
Okay, cool. See if there's anything in there.
Dry hydrants,
Yes,
That's pushing up.
yeah, it's jumping.
So
up.
those 2 lines got shifted down.
oh, I'm sorry, is that what Deb was saying?
Yes, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Yep.
Do we want to consider putting more in there with the hopes that we're gonna get one into Rogers Pond?
That's the one up on by now.
He's definitely gonna let you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Run it.
that one and then also Lane Road if we're,
you won't have Lane Road this year.
Will you take the one on my
with,
dad's lawn
well,
and reuse all that stuff? Because it's always.
I don't know.
that's what we got. I've talked to Pedro with it. We gotta check with the state on seeing, because that was all grant money from the state.
And leave it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is leave it or tell them, hey, we can't use it. Can it be moved?
It works half the time.
It didn't at all this year. It was above the water the whole year.
Did the wire break? I've waited out there before and actually waited.
Yeah, it must have, but that thing's so stiff. Seeing that one.
So you wanna do, let's bump that up to 2,500?
Yeah, I think 2,500. We'll try to get some hydrants in this year. I'll talk to Pedro.
What is it, about 700 or?
I honestly don't want to go into the process on that.
Well, that pipe's gone through the roof too. Now,
Yeah.
Mhm.
PVC.
Oh, it's
Crazy,
crazy.
crazy.
It's just crazy.
You might want to put more in it. You'd probably be surprised at how much it costs for that pipe.
When are you doing Lane Road?
It won't be this year. I mean, we're just doing
Okay.
engineering now.
Yeah.
We might actually get to Hancock Hill before that, if we get the D grant.
There is one big change that's later in the, on page. On page 8, cemeteries. Dave Barlow went over to the cemeteries and checked on the trees, and he asked that line item to go from only 500 up to 7,500. He felt that there were a couple of trees that were either near or very near needing removal or some sort of maintenance.
So I looked at them the other day and I was talking to Dave about that.
When you were gonna plan, how you were gonna clean it up.
So I get that one up, get that one off the fence and we got to look
Did
at
you
it.
get that one off?
Yeah, that thing. Just.
Big?
It was like, no, I don't know. He said Jerry thought the trees looked good. John didn't think too much of them. And you're gonna have to have somebody climb them. Climb them or crane them. The biggest cost gonna be getting rid of it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Dump them over Richards right by my place.
yeah. I know, Ace tree removal, I've used him before. He's only like 600 a day, but that's just to cut them and draw.
They have been
Lay
dumping
'em
them
on
at
the
my
ground.
place.
That's not bad. And then figure out how to get rid of it. Then
Well,
what,
you gotta get them picked up to the grill.
then what do we get a crane?
Cherry
To
picker.
get them out of there.
We bucket up and bring it to my house.
I know, exactly.
It doesn't be well.
I'll take some people.
No, but I mean, you really, that's probably a good number if you're gonna have somebody do it all.
Yeah,
Where's Barlow?
He's gone.
he is delivering his daughter back to school at Emory University.
Like he said, it's better to have it in there.
Mhm. So with the actual on the sanitary salary for, yeah, well, double check that one too, because that's way under budget on the 20 previous year.
He, yeah, well, that's, I will check, but
Does that sound correct?
No.
I think so.
Well, at mine, he was 45, it was only 4,500 in 20.
That's what I mean, the budget year fiscal 21 was 70.
Yeah, he's not gonna, he doesn't-
remember, he's only had like
Does he
two-thirds
get paid
done.
monthly though, or he doesn't go, he doesn't do much mowing or anything in the
When,
winter?
That's only 40%, so like, he still has,
I'm not talking about the actual, this current year, I'm
Oh,
talking about
the
the other actual,
$4,500.
$4,400. Compared to $7,400.
that was the budget, that doesn't necessarily mean that they.
No, I know, I'm just, that's quite a bit difference, that's what I mean.
A lot. It's got that new lower. Take a-
There's
Is
no way,
that for Rodney?
Yeah,
Yeah, because he, I think, basically really works almost like 6 months out of the year. So he should be right around the $6,500 mark. As far as for like a full year, but then you gotta figure his transpires into 2 fiscal years.
so that should sit down with Dave and really catch all these.
Yeah, I'm gonna,
Let's put
line by
every
line.
line by line, every actual, spend a day on it and get it done, get it right, get it 100%, then we'll know exactly. You can't really make the real good determinations if we don't know, if we have no number of the numbers and accurate words they won't call.
sit down with David on Friday.
probably Deb's right, probably showing to.
There's a split between that. Yeah.
She's probably looking at some.
Can you change the screen so that we can see where exactly you're talking about within the budget?
Scroll down.
Well, we could share
Scroll down
this.
to cemetery.
Oh, sorry, Deb.
You don't have one of these papers in front of you?
No.
Ah, sorry.
Cemetery, it's right there.
Because that may help out a little bit more too. Oh.
Cemetery salaries, that's what I was talking about.
So if you actually take, oh, but that's 12/19/20.
But that's what I mean, is that 7,400 budget for 21, I would think that actual for that one should have been up. Oh, as
No,
of.
as of 12/20, that wasn't the whole fiscal year.
So
Yeah,
that's-
that's only for half a year.
Okay, all right, yes, I'll get that to.
So that's good, that's why. it was going up. Expecting to see a whole fiscal year, those actions.
Okay, yes, that will be changed.
So we have a 13% increase in our budget from last year. That's what it looks like. Is that
Between
just
the
overall, yeah? And then before that, from 21 to 22, that's almost a significant increase. And then like, I guess what? I guess what causes that big jump? So just like regular, because I mean, even if you take like cost of living increases, you're looking at 3-4%, but it's like 13% increase.
These numbers down in the total expenditures are not correct.
And also, did we cut a check for our fire department?
Or it was 5,000,
Our share of the,
has not been cut yet.
that was a big number.
It's 42, it's the number that's.
That's all it was.
So 40 or something like that.
It's the right sum of all the values. It's like,
It is something correctly, but there's,
there might be issues within each.
yeah, and then there's like, you had together the 10 or 20 for this
We
sheriff.
budgeted last year.
We added at 6%, and then you added some other changes to start getting close to that.
13% increase.
And what was it? When people were in,
Fire department, I'm looking for
Yeah, I'm just trying to do a sanity check on it to see if we have had additional expenses that we can put into it. Because otherwise, I would expect our stuff to kind of remain flat.
Yeah.
Is the ambulance went out?
That year,
Say what?
that year.
The numbers? Yeah.
I think.
I mean, I rounded something, but, you know.
Well, that large rounding a little bit's not gonna make a big difference.
Exactly.
So 2019, that's so. budget for-
$2,000 on the Orleans County tax. Have we got appropriations? I haven't seen the appropriate.
I was gonna have to look at the other business to see, because that's part of the warning discussion on appropriations. Because we haven't seen a list of what there is for appropriations yet.
These are the appropriations that we've had so far. Yes means they've responded initially, yes means we actually received their stuff.
Are those the numbers they're asking for?
Those we asking for, but some of them, like the learning services, these people, they've been no show, no comment, no nothing. Quote the version again. The VNA, I've called, I've spoken to people, I've left messages, just nothing.
Maybe they got money somewhere else, they don't need your money here.
Yeah, and everybody else is up to date as of the other day. There's nobody came in today asking for stuff.
These need to be in, all these need to be in, like.
Yeah, there needs to be under the, we need to start on warning,
Yeah,
the draft warning.
oh no, there's a draft one at my computer already.
Right, so have that for the next meeting, so we can see it. That's 500,000.
What if we should have a special meeting next week just to do the budget? Like, get some real numbers in this group, but like, it's not real, but make all the actions for it. Then we can finish it, like, we can finish this thing if we spend an hour and a half, and we have Dave on here, and you can go spend the day with me on Friday. And
Yeah, it's, okay. January 10th.
Can I make one little comment?
Maybe.
No, if you go back to the general budget and go back to
She wants you.
my section,
Yours, okay. Which is your,
right, no, go up. So right there, I guess this is just one question for you for the select board. My original spreadsheet that I had given to Ned had an higher increase rate than the COLA that I had put for my salary. But that was basically due to that I'm going to be getting my Vermont clerk certification this September from VMCTA. They accept all the applications up through July 1st. And then they don't actually go through the process of actually doing it and then presenting the actual awards. So I actually had increased mine up by 2,000 in consideration of the state certification that I'm going to be receiving, which technically will help me in my job duties as town clerk and be able to help the residents as well. And from going through that process, it looks like in 2 years, I'll actually have my advanced certification from the state as well. I don't know if that's anything prior to that Coventry has ever had as far as a state certified town clerk. But I will definitely have that. And then I am about 80% of my way of actually getting my master's through IIMC. So that was just a comment for you guys. I had originally had bumped up my salary due to my certification that I will be holding. But I know you folks had gone through and he did the COLA, the regular for everyone, but that's just for consideration for you folks.
Is that her number with the laptop?
no, it was
So
actually.
the number that you proposed, Deb, was 21,680. 8351.
I'd have to go back. I don't have what I originally sent to Ned the first time. I neglected to print that out today.
We could talk on Thursday, Deb, and I'll add it in here.
Okay. But that was my only comment.
Just FYI, I just kind of picked up another one, I think, and that one under the revenue state sources,
Okay,
I think two of the bottom rows have been shifted as well. I don't know if y'all caught that.
262,
yes,
650.
41, yes, yes.
On the roads.
No, on
No,
revenue states in general,
yeah.
first page.
Yeah, it's really obvious.
A lot of them because community center rent is $500,000 too. That
I
whole,
mind
yeah.
it.
Go-
Okay,
go
no,
work
I'll
on
go
that
through the
whole
whole
thing.
damn thing. I'll
Let's
go
do a
through
copy
the whole
paste
thing.
thing.
Boy, this place rents well.
Yes, it does.
That's what I came up with it on this last week.
This place rents well.
That's at one of the meetings, right? Where you did make sure everything's good to go.
You're right, Dave,
Before we
you're
have
right.
one.
Told them 67%. They didn't believe me.
13% increase might have come in handy at this point.
I think, I have no other comment on this budget at this time.
That might adjust some numbers down the bottom too.
It'll change it a
So
little
what-
bit, but
That might adjust some numbers down the bottom too.
Okay, yeah, I think so.
Make sure when you're done eating, it's time.
you'll like the whole damn thing the other day, but I did it.
Dan, since you're on, does the planning commission look good?
I had a different question I was asking, and maybe I missed. You guys were talking about appropriations. What's the $265,000 we spent in appropriations in 2020?
That was for the CFT, the Coventry Town Foundation. There was 250,000 that was appropriated, well, through town meeting, it ended up being amended and up to 250,000, and that was granted. So 250,000 is the Coventry Town Foundation. The remaining amount went to our normal appropriation agencies that you sort of saw on the list and just barely.
And do we have another appropriation to that same fund this year, or
No,
I haven't
Okay.
received it yet.
they haven't requested anything?
No.
they haven't, and a lot of that has to really do because of COVID. The spending that they have seen as far as scholarships for education and whatnot, there's a lot of students who didn't go to college. And a lot of some of the colleges just weren't even operating. As far as requests from the school for some of the kids' functions, that has actually been reduced down. And then as far as for the community, the biggest expense that they have seen was basically the gift vouchers for food that they gave out to residents in need for help with assistance with their food. That was basically their biggest spending that they saw last year. Now that the school is back up going into full swing, they probably are expected to be able to go through and utilize their allotment of funds that they usually do every single year. We're getting ready to go ahead and do another gift vouchers for food for them to be able to assist, because we know COVID is still in the process of happening. And we're starting to see more students going back to college. And so they're utilizing the education scholarship that we have.
Okay, thank you. And Phil, yeah, I mean, we don't really spend any money when it comes to planning commission and stuff.
You know,
But I do see you put in $250 for an administrative assistant, so that was nice.
while we're on the foundation, have you seen anything as far as what they're gonna be presenting for the town?
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, we kind of passed around some drafts so far, but nothing official yet.
Anything from the plan?
No, not yet.
No, in the past, they've never presented a budget or anything, no.
Is that something that goes in the town report to begin with?
Uh,
Financials, that's something that goes in the town report? The financials got presented at the annual meeting that we had this year.
oh, did
Yeah.
you?
And actually,
Those
what were you asking?
those
me?
buildings should be presented.
Financials within the annual report?
Foundation,
In the annual report?
yeah.
Yeah, Dave was wondering what we're putting in the annual report.
Yeah, the financials have, I've already gone ahead, Rosalie forwarded that over to me. It's what our accountant Eva Hayes have provided. And that has actually been submitted over to Ned. And we are doing our picture tomorrow night. Our letter has already been drafted and ready to go. We're gonna do our picture tomorrow night to get a full group of all of us to be able to place on the letter, and then the letter will be shipped off to Ned.
Well, that'd be good. I don't think they've ever presented financials. of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, the annual
I
meeting,
think a couple of
I mean,
years ago, we
gotcha,
did.
That's the thing,
Last
people,
year we did.
yeah, that booklet thing.
it's a rite of passage to read that.
I did, that was the first read on the
Well,
town.
no, I mean, it's the biggest thing that they do.
All right, so I guess we'll wrap up this budget for now. We'll have a special meeting next week. Ned will get this together with David and with Deb too possibly, and make sure
Happens
we
aligned with where we go,
we get it straight.
along with a address of the meeting, town meeting warrant.
Deb, I guess this is gonna be you. Town meeting day update on legislation and meeting format.
Yes. So of course, we have not had any update that the legislation has passed. They are just barely getting back into their swing of things. Because we are expecting them to pass for select boards to vote to do Australian ballot this year for town meeting. And with the anticipation that you folks have sort of basically stated that if it does pass, you guys want to go that route. Versus wait until last minute to reach out to our residents. I think it's very prudent for us to go ahead and at least reach out now, let them know that this possibility may be coming. It's not so much going to affect them as far as whether it's Australian ballot or whether they come in, you know, that day to vote, but more so for the officials whose terms are coming up, or for individuals who are considering running for a position. They do have to provide that consent of candidacy form, and there is a deadline that has to be provided by. So if the legislation decides to go ahead and pass this, like say January 15th, but yet that form is due January, oh, where's my thing here? January 23rd or January 24th, that really doesn't give them a whole heck of a lot of time, especially with anybody who is running. They are stating currently right now, last year, the legislation went and waived that 5% signature voters. They are not anticipating that being waived this year. So I did ask the Secretary of State if you folks would still be able to go ahead and waive that on behalf of our residents. And the answer was absolutely not. That is state statute. If legislation makes a change, then you folks can go ahead and do it. But if legislation does not waive that 5%, then we cannot waive that 5%. And we just want to make sure that our residents have enough time, if they want to run and have their name on the ballot, that they have adequate time to go out and get the 5% voters required in order for them to be able to have their name on the ballot. So that was my whole stem as far as why we should be putting together this letter, just giving them a pre-thought, this may be happening. If so, it may be to your advantage to contact me, request the consent of candidate form, and start going out to get your 5% voter signatures on it.
How many signatures is 5%, Deb?
As of today, it is 37.
37, okay.
Yep.
So not too unreasonable.
No, But still, it's gonna take time. And you still have COVID, so I know some people are still not quite so having to go door to door, like I know my clerk position is up for this year. So basically, I'm gonna have to go through this exact same process as everyone else, just like Mr. Barlow and a few other people. But it's, you still want to make sure that you're giving them enough time. If they want to do postings, put it in the post office or whatnot to let other people be able to come and sign it. They've got that time frame versus saying, okay, you're a week out. If you want to run, this is what you need to do, and this is when I need to have it back.
What's the normal time frame for Australia? Because I thought last year we were running into the same problem on needing to decide on what we were gonna do to give enough time. Even, because you don't get the mailings out until Thursday, they're not gonna get them until Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever, that's, and I guess more time is more time, but that's gonna lead into another question on, are they looking at being able to allow us to move town meeting day like was able to last year? Because I just
That part,
can't do a time crunch no matter what we have going on.
absolutely, regardless of whether we have the regular town meeting or whether we have the Australian ballot, you're still gonna have the time crunch. Right now, it's a little bit more, only because if we do the Australian ballots, then of course, like you guys, you need to have your warning done so that we know what our ballot needs to contain. That information needs to be sent to our ballot company for them to be able to go through and produce those, get those back to us in time frame for those to be mailed out to our residents per state guidelines. So yeah, there definitely is a lot of factors that play. If you have a regular town meeting, do you need the consent of candidate forms? No, you don't, because everybody just shows up town meeting day. People are just nominating whoever they want to nominate, and then you just hold your meeting. So definitely both ways holds different factors. It definitely does seem time crunching, but I think the biggest part of that is right now, especially with legislation. I think they were sort of holding back a little bit towards the end of last year because COVID sort of seemed like it was starting to settle down and dissipate a little bit. But now that there's a bigger increase in it, there's been a lot of towns who have been voicing their opinions to their state legislators, requesting to have this little bit of additional assistance. And especially now that we see that Omicron is out there and how much that's just hitting all over the place. Definitely, there's a lot of people who are worried. And like I said, for us, it's just legislation. By the time they get back into the office, by the time they get the act, they review the act, they approve the act, and then get that information back to us. Yeah, I mean, it's just a late time all the way around, but I'm just trying to think if we can just be as proactive, even though, yes, you know what, we can get these printed Thursday, they can get mailed out Thursday. They may start receiving them Friday, Saturday, but at least we're giving them a couple of weeks versus 5 days. So
Month are we speaking, I kind of.
January.
Okay, so.
what's that?
January 24th is
Yeah.
the date to have the
Candidacy forms.
candidacy form.
Correct.
I think it's before that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I guess my worry with doing the letter also is confusing the people, because we know that happens.
yeah.
As you said,
I mean-
how people are gonna think we're actually doing this, and if they don't pass the legislation, then we aren't. So then you got
So.
people who are doing their thing already and come to town meeting day, think they're on the ballot and they aren't there and they don't get nominated.
So I guess another question, maybe off subject a little bit, is I think it's a general consensus, we would want to ask the taxpayers to appoint David, allow us to appoint David.
That'll be a warning thing. So yeah, we can talk about that when it comes down to the warning.
So he should still get his 5%.
Well, whoever needs.
If-
Because if it doesn't pass, then it needs to be.
Yeah.
Only this 5%.
So what
Devin's gonna
happens
need
if
her.
it passes? Do we still have the authority to still do town meeting day, or do we now, are we?
We do have the right, it's not a mandatory thing. We have the authority to say, yeah, we'll still do it in person. It's gonna be recommended not to. I'm gonna assume is what it's gonna come down to with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
There are some towns that actually postponed it last year.
And that's why I was asking, are they, is
I gotcha.
that ability, is that able to happen still this year?
They have not stated that yet. For some of the pieces of information that I've seen, I have not specifically seen that one specific line item. Could that be something that may come up and they could pass? Absolutely. It's just right now, it's just a big unknown until legislation goes through and actually devises that complete act, reviews it, approves it, and then lets us know exactly what it contains. That's the caveat with this whole thing.
So basically, the expense in the town is just the postage on sending out 500 or 700 letters.
It'll probably be 742, I believe. Because it will just be mailed out to all active, non-challenged voters.
If we send the email, are we gonna send it by?
It has to be, it has to be.
Oh, it has to be
it has to be
less.
snail mail.
Yeah, plus we don't have all of our residents' emails. So,
Martha,
and
is
the
there-
thing is you have to give equal opportunities for everyone. I mean, I just can't go out and email all of the existing town officials and say, hey, if you want your name on the ballot, you need to do this. It's all or nothing. It's got to be fair for everyone, which it should be. And so that's why at least this letter just gives them a preemptive that, hey, guess what? This year town meeting may be similar to next year. It's not a definite, but it could be. But if it is, if you're considering doing some of these things, then you may want to start doing it now. Even though, like Phil said, you guys may get the legislation and say, you know what, we're still holding town meeting in person. You know what, that's perfectly fine. And even if people have gone out, got their consent form, got all their 37 signatures, at least it's done. It's not, we're us just telling them 5 days before it's due. Oh no, we're doing Australian ballot. Go out and get all your signatures.
Well,
I mean, people can still run and not have to complete the consent form. It's just their name is not going to be on the ballot. And what makes that hard is when people come in, one of their first questions is, who's running for this? Who's running for that? Who's running for this? Who's running for that? And it's like, honestly, for us, we really shouldn't really be stating that information. If you really want to run, then you should be completing the form and getting your name on the ballot so that your fellow constituents know you're trying to run.
No, I agree with that.
Martha has her hand up.
yeah, I was just getting to the point to see if Martha's arm's tired yet.
Yeah.
Thank God it's only a button. So my question kind of is to Deb, while we're talking about doing a remote town meeting or a COVID meeting, town meeting. We would need 3 different ballots then, because we would need the town ballot, the bond vote ballot, and the school budget ballot.
I'll go.
No, everything will be all contained on the same ballot, just like last year. So what'll happen is like last year, we'll do all of the school, all of the officials who are up for reelection, the school budget, and then the bond vote. And then we'll head right into the town articles as far as all the officials who are up for election. Any monies going into reserves, those different type of appropriations. And then you'll have at the end of it, the appropriations that we typically see from the nonprofit agencies. So
So,
it'll just be one ballot.
so it's legal for the bond vote to be attached to another ballot? I don't know if that's a thing. But you would still run into at least 2 pages of a ballot if you've got all of your elected officials, all of the questions, and then all of the budgets. So
Yep,
we're not looking
correct.
at a front to a back, we're looking at 2-page ballots is,
Nope, it would just be probably just front and back. And actually, I think our last ballot was front and back as well, I do believe, for last year.
It was.
Yep.
but we have more offices open than we did last year.
Yeah,
So
but
I'm-
still that honestly doesn't take that much room. Granted, if we had 10 people for each different office, that was submitting a consent of candidacy form and we are listing like 10 names for each office, I agree, we possibly could be running over into a 2-page ballot, but I'm not really expecting that
So how
much.
many- So how many offices do we have, positions that need to be voted on? And how many, questions do we have? The select board is gonna, what questions have they agreed to put on the ballot?
If Ned already has the warrant and started on his computer, he should be able to answer as far as which officials are up for expiring today.
Yeah.
I think as far as the reserves, I don't believe that information probably has not been received from David, but I would imagine it would probably be similar to the number that we had last year as far as depending on what that extra number is being divided among, I think we have like what, 4 or 5 different reserve accounts. And then the appropriations are just all done together as one lump sum. So they're all same, together. And as far as the school side goes, you have one of your school board members, you have my position. And then of course you'll have the school budget, which is typical, and then the bond vote. But Ned should be able to answer your question as far as how many officials are up for re-election this year.
There's 2 school board members, right? Matt
There's
and
always two.
Kathleen, so I don't think that's the, as far as officials, we're pretty close to what we usually are. I believe the planning commission would be the only one that would jump it up, and I think this year it's two
Yeah.
person thing.
Well, I think
Well, you got
me
the
and,
clerk, you got the clerk, the treasurer, the delinquent tax collector. You got the select board member. You've got what, 4 planning commission members that have all been appointed? Only one's been elected in, and we need 5 of them. So I'm just thinking, and then you also have to have your write-in. I'm just, I don't know.
yeah. No, I
You know what I
still think it should just be just one ballot front and back.
And,
But I don't know, Ned, do you have that exact number?
I don't have the exact number, Deb.
is,
But it's 5 or 6. And some of the planning commission members were appointed to serve out the remainder of term. But we still have 2 or 3 coming up anyway, so.
It doesn't matter really though, Martha, how big the ballot is. It'll be whatever we need it to be. If it's 2 pages or 3 pages or front and the back or.
I'm thinking when the officials, I'm thinking of not about the cost or anything. I'm thinking about how, when you're standing there and you got to do all of the ballot, and then how many you're stuffing into the envelope to mail out. Because if you're doing an absentee ballot, they have to be available 20 days before the election date. And
Correct.
then it's a lot of paperwork. I'm not looking at it that way. I'm trying to see what the best route is to make it the easiest route.
Right.
I'm also
I mean,
looking
I
at,
think the safest route, right now because of COVID is definitely the Australian ballot. For our community, for us here, for us election officials. Is it gonna be a little bit more costly? Yes, because you're gonna have the price of the ballots, you're gonna have the cost of the envelopes, which I already have those priced through Secretary of State's office, and then you've got the mailing of them out. The process, and I mean, them coming in makes it a little bit easier because then every single day I'm just sort of posting as far as when we're receiving them in. They'll still have the opportunity to end up coming that day to vote in person if they'd like to end up doing it that way. But no, definitely, you've got your pros and your cons for each approach. Right now, I think it's just what is going to be safest for our community and for our election officials and for my election people who help me more than as far as how much time am I going to have to put forth in order to produce this. That part I'm not really worried about. It's the safety that I just want for everyone.
so on the letter, Martha, sorry, you had something else. On the letter, so the petition for articles, is there a state date for that, or is that just a date that we come up with?
Oh, can you repeat that one more time?
On the letter, you have in here for petition for articles to be put on the warrant as
Yep.
January 13th. Is that a state date, or is that something that we come up with for our?
No, that's a state date.
Okay.
That's a state date, and that's,
And in there
that's, re-
is
Oh.
the, it's that's the one that's gonna be close for, people are gonna see that and go, wait. they had-
But, oh, sorry.
Yep.
Yes, that is correct, but that's also going to be the same regardless of whether we have town meeting in person or whether we're doing Australian ballot. That date does not change. So if somebody is actively looking at placing something on this ballot, they should have already done their research to see what their time frame is and to know what they need to do in order to get that petition to be going onto the ballot. So yes, to answer your question, that does sort of give them a very limited time frame. But to be honest with you, if you are going to be receiving any external request of that nature, you should have probably already received it by now, just like the appropriations from the nonprofit agencies that have come in. So for me to be concerned with that, I am absolutely not concerned with that. Mailing the letter out, asking people to start the consent of candidacy form, I am not concerned about that because we're doing our due diligence to the best that we can to just try to notify them in advance as much as we can of what possibly may be happening.
Okay,
I mean, I think as long as we're doing our due diligence,
I mean, I read it.
you can't make everyone happy, but at least,
The letter that Deb sent us. It's just what she thought should go out to the people. I read it.
yeah. And there was one change that Mr. Barlow had suggested, which I think was really good. I think it was to my second paragraph. Basically, it would change it that if the act does pass and the select board votes to use the Australian ballot method, then all election votes in the town of Coventry for the calendar year 2022 will be held via Australian ballot.
yeah, what I was gonna make the suggestion to make it clear, even bold or something, saying that if this
Yeah.
does not pass, this does not mean you're on the ballot for the regular town meting.
So when I
Correct.
See that
Yeah.
happen.
should we kind of do like a preliminary of what everybody's thought is if the state legislative decides to make it Australian
Is this what we're
ballot
gonna
option? Is, if you're no way and you want to have it and you want to have it, then
There's no
we
reason
don't
to
need to
put
send a
in
letter.
letters.
Right.
Me being on the emergency management side, I think if it passes, we should.
And I feel the same.
But I also
feel the
go
same way.
with, if they gave us an option to postpone town meeting, I would go that route.
Yeah, I agree with Bill too, because I think we'll need that time frame just to kind of get all of our ducks in a row.
And
We thought
be
so
able to
the
have
last year
town
we were
meeting in
able-
person later.
We were able to get it done the last
Oh,
year.
yeah.
It was nice.
Yeah,
Like, it was the same time frame, the same time.
Yeah, we were.
Actually, we're in a more time crunch now.
Okay, so it's worse, I guess, this time around, and the same thing. People need time to signatures.
We got it done.
Yeah,
yeah.
So
but that's my, like, I would definitely go that route. If there's no option to postpone town meeting like last year, that'd be the way I would go. If there is the option, is it gonna make a difference if we postpone and hold an in-person meeting? Are we gonna end up following the same thing if we're gonna have to end up going Australian ballot anyways? But there's pros and cons of both of them.
Yeah, and that's the hard part. That's the caveat.
So I make a motion that we should send Deb's letter out, just to warn the residents of the town.
Are we, I guess, are we all in agreement that if it comes up? we're
I'm
gonna-
fine either way. There's no clear definition from the legislators when they would make up their mind on that.
No, all we were told was the beginning of January. So beginning of January could be the first week of January, it could be the second week of January. I just want to make sure, regardless of which way it goes, and especially if you guys pull the trigger and yep, we're going Australian ballot. I mean, that means, you know, we gotta have that warning done, and we need to have it specifically stated in what we are going to be voting on, because that information needs to get sent out for the ballots. Of course, that won't be sent until January 25th. Because if they have, I mean, we have our consent of candidacy forms that we still have to receive in, and they are allowed to send them in up through the 24th. So it won't be until the 25th before we can send out that ballot anyhow for production. But I mean, yeah, I mean, you got your pros and cons both ways.
So sending this letter out is gonna be saying that we're gonna be voting to do Australian ballot if that legislation comes out.
Yeah. I just wish there was another means that we could reach out to our voters in a more easier process, but there just really isn't.
Not for everybody.
I think
No.
at this time, the first people it's gonna impact most are the ones that wanna run for office.
Yeah.
Basically, whoever wants their name on the ballot.
So we don't have to make the decision on Australian ballot in that letter.
No, we're not.
No, this letter is basically just letting the residents know
Yeah,
this possibly may be happening again for what happened last year, but for them to be aware that if they are running for office or if any existing officials' terms are up and they want to rerun again, they have to complete that candidacy form in order for their name to be on that ballot. And in order for their name to be on that ballot, they have to have acquired 5% of the voters' signatures.
So, yeah, well, you need to have the, well,
so wait a minute,
printing would, okay, hang on, because the letter right now, the way it's worded, makes it sound that we are, no matter what, gonna go Australian ballot if they, if they pass. it.
Yes,
The way it's worded is that sounds.
just had a thought. You contradicted, what we're doing with the statement. And I lost.
Deb, is
Can you read
opening
that?
day for the legislature tomorrow?
I can blow it.
what's that?
Is opening day for the legislature tomorrow?
I do believe.
Yeah. Well,
So if they were to throw,
And actually, I think they're still remote at this point in time anyhow for the next 2 weeks.
right, but we'll get more info via the news cycles over the next couple of days.
That depends. If this new act is not within that cycle, we're not going to receive notification until it actually makes it into that cycle. It's not, technically they stated they're going to try to put it as near to the top as they can to be able to get us our answers like ASAP, but that's not a guarantee.
no, they-
So basically, they have just stated beginning of January, and we don't know what beginning of January is.
She's telling us this.
the
Yeah.
5%,
Deb,
What?
so you're telling us that the legislature is saying that it's a mandated thing that they have to have 5%.
That's normal on any.
Correct. That's normal. That is state statute.
They waived
But
it.
what happened, Dave, is last year, because COVID was so, I don't want to say so much more.
new.
Yeah,
Well, it was new, but it was so much more. And I think because of with vaccinations and everything too, that they did not want people going out discussing this, or they did not want people going out and communicating with other people. So they're like, if you want to run for office last year, you need to complete this form, but we're going to waive the 5% signatures. What they have been proposing so far this year, because COVID is still here, but it's not to the extent of what it was last year, that the consent of letter forms will be required, but you're still going to have to do the 5% voters signatures in order for your name to be placed on there. That part they are not going to be waiving from the last discussions, unless something changes. I don't know, but from the last discussions, they stated no.
So that's the bigger.
And you are correct, Martha. Well, actually, last year, the state legislation went ahead and waived that 5% requirement. This year, the board, even if legislation goes and we can do Australian ballots, the board, the select boards cannot go ahead and waive that 5% requirement because that is state statute, and state statute cannot be overridden by the select board. It can only be overwritten by legislation.
So I guess our only two options are then either the Australian ballot or go with an actual like in-person town meeting. We don't have, I mean, postponing the town meeting is useless. It's not-
unless it goes through as part of that legislation.
Yeah,
Pass that through as part of that legislation they're doing as an option of either Australian ballot, you can postpone.
How do we postpone it?
Sure. But even if we postpone though, the candidacy forms still need to be in by the 24th. Postponing isn't gonna buy any of the candidates any of the time.
Does that change the dates, Deb, if you postpone?
It does change the dates as far as when things are due, but then you're just technically postponing it out. If they give us a chance to postpone, and if they allow us to do what they allowed last year and actually have outdoor voting areas, then you could set it up with some area, like I'm just gonna pick out either, like the school or the town garage or something, depending on how we went through the format where people could easily come in, circle around, and then go back out. There could be other different options we may be able to look at. But then again, you just don't know. And you are correct, Martha, candidate forms are not needed for floor nominations. This is just if we actually do hold town meeting in person, but if we end up doing it via Australian ballot, then the candidacy forms are required.
Major.
When we were having a party.
So I guess it comes down
So
to-
that's just your consideration. My intent was, I just want to make sure my residents know.
No, it makes sense. I think that my biggest concern with the letter is right now it is worded that we are, and that's why I was asking them, that if this legislation passes, we are gonna go Australian ballot. We could reword that and say the select board has. the-
May.
And may do it, but is not decided as of this point, if it will. And then also make sure that it's in bold letters, clear in there that you're bringing your candidate consent form in. And if we don't end up going this route and the legislation doesn't pass, doesn't mean you're on a ballot or gonna be nominated at town meeting in person. Because I can see that happening. Somebody puts their candidacy form in and they get to town meeting and nobody says anything.
But Martha is,
No, they
To answer your question, Martha, no, the offices are not listed in the letter. But that is definitely if, like I said, Ned said he already has the warning that's established. He can always go ahead and just copy and paste the beginning portion of that warning, just so that they know. Or we can go ahead and incorporate the listing of the offices right within the letter at the end of the letter. So that could be a good suggestion too from Martha.
You gotta look back at the town report to see when those are due.
And I mean, and just to point out with Martha too, because I know she had made the notation for planning commission for appointments. They still have to be on that warning, even though they're appointed to finish out the remaining term of 2 or 3 years or whatever. They still have to go through for appointment at this next town meeting. And if they are elected, then they will carry through the term that they were appointed for. But if they are not, then the next person who's elected will carry out through that term. So I just want to make sure that Martha was correct where all of those planning commission individuals or those spots do need to be listed on that warning.
That's the one we gotta figure out.
Yeah.
Who it is and the terms. It's only 2 and 3 years.
No, you've got, I think, almost all 4.
I meant 2 and 3 year terms.
Oh, yes.
I think you're right. It's 4.
You've got a total of 4 that should be on that warning.
Thought you had 3 threes and 2 twos.
Yeah, there's 3 threes and 2 twos or the other way around, but there's
Yeah.
4 that have left that have been appointed.
yeah, but we have to figure out.
What's the matter? They would have had to rerun. it.
Right now, that's what we need to
Oh.
know, because
Oh.
there might be a 2-year term
Term.
that would not be coming up this year.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
No, I thought, didn't those get changed to all 2 years by just alternating?
No,
Just
I-
like you get elected for you served out the year that's gonna.
Yeah,
And then
no.
the next year you gotta get elected to finish off the others, right?
Correct, yes,
are
exactly.
they just 2 years?
It's 3 years.
I thought that was changed.
But if you
I mean,
change
I
it-
could be wrong,
Yeah.
but I thought that was changed, something to do with, I don't remember, something.
I thought they were all 2-year terms.
Did
The-
we
they had
change
to
that when I got
separate.
done? Maybe we changed that.
I
Yeah,
think they had to separate them to make it work.
No, we offset it. It was my last term that it got changed and it was offset.
Yeah.
Or
So we went up-
Because you were correct. It used to be 3 and 2, but then the select board changed it to 2 and 2.
in half.
We'll have
Well,
to
there's
look.
only 3 for the planning commission. Praneet,
Yeah,
Izzy,
3 spots.
and Zach. And which, but all we need to do is look through the minutes and who were they replacing?
And the
Because,
term.
yeah,
Because I think you might be right. Maybe we did change them to all 2 years.
yeah, because Praneet was for Sue Harkey. Izzy was for Michelle. And then Zach was for. Have to look that one up. I don't
Yep.
remember.
So as I'm looking into the town report for 2018, the terms were switched to 2-year terms with the passing of Article 11.
Okay.
So all of the planning
Thank you,
commission.
Martha.
And also, any office that's been appointed, you cannot appoint somebody to serve out a term past an
Right.
election. So
Yeah.
anybody that was appointed, the voters have to approve who's in these positions. So if
Yeah.
you appoint somebody, they have to be voted in by voters.
Yes, that's what we're talking about, is making sure we get that right on the ballot or on whatever we're doing.
The
So we-
warning.
The warning, so we know who's there.
So the appointed folks don't have to, it's not like a re-election, so to speak.
So you have to run just like normal.
Right, but
Now
now
we're-
where, do you restart your term at?
No, it's filling in the term. So like if these were 3 and 2 year positions, where the 3 years would have been up this year, but there was 2, 3 years and a 1 year that we had to, or 2 year that we had to fill.
Yeah.
Somebody's finishing out the 2 year, the person who gets elected is finishing out the 2 year, and they're
Right.
finishing out, the other ones are finishing out the 3 year.
But they're all 2-year terms.
But they're all 2 year terms,
So everybody's-
rotating, so it's
yeah.
not really, one's gonna have a single
You got a little
year.
bit of a
There's gonna be 1 or 2 with a single year and
Right.
1 with a
2 years.
2 year.
Yeah.
All right. So back
I'll
to the-
Is it possible Ned can send me the draft warning? So that I can see what the heck is going on here, so I know what I'm,
Send us all
I
the.
can be better prepared at what I'm trying to say here.
It'll be next meeting, next Monday, Martha.
Yeah, he's working on that this
Working
week.
on it now. It's not for public consumption at this point.
Dan, go ahead.
I'll get a better handle on it for Wednesday when we have a meeting, but I think everybody on the planning commission is up for election. So
Are you-
5 years.
Oh, yeah, because you're on your 2nd year.
That's right.
Yeah, I got a feeling that's the
Yeah.
case.
Yeah, it's like,
Huge turnover.
Well, hopefully who's in there is gonna get voted back in.
Why did they think that those terms got broken? I remember,
So they were 3 and 2, and then
Yeah.
Amanda brought up because of how the
she
terms
brought
were
up to
going.
go to the 3 and 2.
It was, no, it was 3 and 2 when I was.
I
on there.
remember,
They changed it
we
to-
got, we ended up redoing that so that it would never be the whole planning commission wiped out at one term,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah.
Now, 2 people resigned, if they were on the same year, it could be true that everybody
Yeah.
is reelected, but the amount of time is not gonna be the same.
No, I got you, so I mean.
Correct. Yeah.
That was why I was.
Hopefully, yeah, it goes on the commission.
So you may choose to run. Could Praneet run for the, if it's
Oh, yeah,
a
he could
2-year
run for the
term,
2 year.
not 1-year term, run,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah,
right.
He can run for a 2-year instead of if he's on one where he would still have another year to finish out, he can run for a 2-year option.
So this is where we ran into last year and the year before is with this is the problem with the Australian ballot, because I think we had this, is people are putting in their consent form for a particular spot.
Mhm.
Yes. And
And
for particular years.
if you only put it in for that one spot and there's somebody here, but then somebody doesn't get voted in on this one position, we had this happen this past year. Somebody didn't get
Yeah.
voted, wasn't enough votes for that last position. Because you have to have a certain percentage of votes too.
Yep,
That-
correct.
That position was empty.
Right.
Where if it's at town, where if
But
we're
then
on
we
a floor
could-
vote,
But then we could still appoint
well,
that
you
person.
go through the same
Right.
problem then.
Yeah.
But where if you're on a town, on a floor vote,
Right.
you
get
just
voted no matter
roll it
what.
over,
Yeah,
you
keep
keep
on going.
nominating.
That's why it's easier if you do Australian ballot, to have anybody who's interested in running to actually do their consent form and send that in, so their name actually goes on the ballot. Just so people actually know who to vote for. Like Praneet and Dan, they can go ahead and give me 5 different planning commission consent of candidacy forms for
Right.
each one of those positions, and their name would go underneath each one of those positions. So,
Still run into the same problem is you.
oh, absolutely.
Work out, there's somebody votes for you guys on all positions and you're not gonna have the right amount of votes to fill any of them.
And that is correct. Yeah, and that's just one of those caveats.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, Martha, is you gotta look at the last meeting to get those.
All right. did we
Remember,
meet-
Andrew, Martha, remember that the minutes of last town meeting were the 3 information meetings, the meetings of that, and then they were elected.
Yeah,
Okay,
but it's just the results from the last one,
correct.
because the
Yeah.
ballot have it on there,
Which that I have.
and that's in the report too.
Yeah.
So we beat this to death.
Yeah, we did meet this.
I think it just, my biggest concern is making sure it's clear in this letter that we may do this, and if we don't end up in the, or if it doesn't pass and we don't end up doing it, that this doesn't mean anything. If you put your consent form. Essentially,
No, I know what you mean. It's gonna be.
I know you won't
That
have,
ends up taking it.
I know you won't have the problem, but
I don't know, then a part of me is like, maybe we should just wait and put something up on the website.
Yeah.
yeah, but you don't get out to all your voters.
Nobody thought.
Yeah.
Well, could we unilaterally, I guess, could y'all make the decision to just have the, like an in-person meeting this year, just to make things easier? Or is that just off the table at this point?
Yes, Martha.
I can go ahead and send you that calculation, Martha. That number was a little bit high. We do have like 700 and I think maybe 76 voters, but because we have challenged voters, those technically cannot be on a, I don't want to say legal signature, but like a signature on a consent form because they're being challenged. So you have to minus those out from the number, and then it's 5% based on that reduced number. So I can go ahead and I can send you what that number is. I honestly don't remember. I did calculate it this morning, and that's where I came up at the 37 number.
You could put that into the letter so people know.
I think.
Yeah.
I think my personal feeling is with COVID and the regulations and how different people take it, I think you get a truer, I feel you get a more accurate vote with an Australian ballot.
Sure.
And you get more people participating.
Now, when
Whereas
you have to show up.
you're
Which
gonna
we did.
the people here that aren't even gonna come to the town meeting,
Yeah.
whether they have it or not, because they're scared.
I didn't look, yeah, that is.
So,
I mean, people show up at Coventry Day, or Fall Festival, I guess.
So- you
It's
know,
outside though,
Fair enough.
and in the summer.
Like I said earlier, in earlier meetings, the catch-22.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The in-person meeting has a lot of impact. You obviously get more votes from Australian ballot, but that's the only part of the participation grows. You're not gonna have, we didn't have anybody in here for our informational meetings. Just be a
Handful of this.
So as far as the actual participation in the town, I don't think it benefits from a voter, from people being allowed to vote. It just pros and
Well,
cons.
and I look at it as, they're coming and voting, so they are participating, there's more participation. You don't have the ability to discuss and make changes.
Correct.
on the floor.
I can't
Which I
answer
get.
that.
Yeah.
I can't say, why do you want that?
Yeah.
Why do you-
But
That's
that's
the
where,
same
that's
for
where
the
the
school.
informational meetings. are.
but you may get this other guy who wouldn't come in person, but
Correct.
would do it the other way.
It's a catch-22, right? And you said the school, and there's another
Yeah.
point. There is nobody there till it's information.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a $3.4 million proposal this year, you probably have 10 people there. at the meeting.
Yeah.
It's just the way it
It
is.
is what it is, yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is.
It's not a good
Yeah.
thing.
People probably
Don't care.
You should get excited, right?
don't care.
Like
So if you're doing a bridge in front of your house and the road closed for 3 days, then you're gonna hear from them. But they didn't come tonight. you know, that's,
Yeah.
So I know this came up,
I'm sure they'll be.
I know this came up last year, and I'm looking at Martha's thing, is, are we able to change the space to the school?
What was that?
Are we able to change the space, the voting space to the school, or is that something we can make ourselves the decision on, or is that a statute thing?
Actually, no, I won't be mean. We did discuss that at one of our BCA meetings, which you three are members of the BCA meetings. And we did go through and make that little vote that if we needed to, that we could go ahead and opt to go ahead and use the school, has a larger space. And yes, that vote did go through and pass. So yes, that is a possibility. And I have already presented that over to Mr. Rowan, and he has absolutely no qualms in regards to that whatsoever. So if that is what needs to happen, we absolutely can use the school.
I know
And
we-
to go back and just to answer Martha really quickly, I think it was like 700 and maybe 43, I think was the voters times the 5%. It was a little over 37, but I just rounded it down to 37.
I know we discussed that last year, and I personally think the flow of the school is a lot better than the flow here, so.
But yes, the BCA voted that in, so we do have that capability if we need it.
okay,
Motion on all that.
We just need a consent to the board really to say, yeah, go ahead, do it.
Why don't we approve it to go out on Friday if we don't hear anything from the legislature?
So she's in Thursday, that's what she was gonna do, is do it on Thursday.
so
Just make sure that's
Deb,
all
is that
clear.
okay with you? We'll send it out. I'll mail it out on Friday. We'll create the letter on Thursday. David suggested that we wait until a Friday mailing.
No, that's fine.
No,
She's
I
here
think
Thursday. I didn't
Thursday,
know, I didn't hear
Thursday.
that, but she was gonna be here Thursday.
if you don't hear anything Thursday, then we mail it Thursday. We'll do it Thursday.
We just do it anyways.
Do it?
Yeah, I would say just.
I
do it.
think
I don't
it's
think-
gonna pass. I think it's gonna pass. I don't think there's any thought that.
From the sounds of it, it sounds like it is going to pass. It's just the full details of what's gonna pass. We don't fully know. If you guys do go ahead and approve that, then I would just need to make sure that Ned goes out and buys me 2 boxes of envelopes that does not have windows. And to make sure we have enough labels and to have all my postage ready for, say, like 745 letters to be able to go out, so they can all be printed and folded and stuffed and sealed and stamped and ready for the post office.
Hey, you got the name of, what's her name that was here a couple of meetings ago about the post office that she said she could save us money?
Not on that.
Yes, it's John.
All right.
Hey, you never know, that could be a possibility, but to be honest with you, we may be able to do something with the school, because the school does have a postage meter. And if they still have that, then I may be able to incorporate something, and it would just require us to issue a check to the school.
Because even letters like that, you can get bulk pricing.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you
check
want
into that.
750 envelopes, Deb?
Get 1,000, 500 boxes, please,
All
of
right,
no windows, blank,
windows and stamped.
no windows.
But
Yep.
No windows. And would you? want-
Correct, no windows.
No stamp.
No stamp either. On the
Do you
envelope.
want them pre-stamped?
I don't think we have enough time for those to come in.
Okay,
Those usually take like 2 weeks when you order them through the post office. This would have to be like Walmart, because there's no more front desk.
I think it's just Walmart, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it would have to be the envelopes Walmart, labels from Walmart, and then the postage from the post office, and we should have plenty of, well, you're gonna have paper coming, so.
I'll get paper also, paper.
So we don't need a vote. You have the consensus,
Yeah.
right? Okay. 7, moving
So what
on.
I'll do is I'll resend it out to you folks then early Thursday morning. If you can just do another quick initial review and yep, so I can send it to the printers and go.
Yep.
And on that note, Miss Martha, would you like to come in and help? Would you be able to come in and help?
Yeah, Deb, just email me when you need me in.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Martha. Okay, moving on, 7A, ATV discussion.
So I talked to Dan, I know we have discussed past of having an update done to the ATV ordinance, which I think we should do. There's certain changes, particularly time and dates, that should be on there. I know there was other things that had come up, but I wanted to bring it up so we could get it on our warning to be done at town meeting now. I was reading on the ordinance rules, there's still, you still have to play by the same, same rules. So the select board, and this is where I think people don't understand how an ordinance works. So what we found the last time is the select board creates an ordinance, adopts it. And if they talk to the people, they talk to people. If they don't, they don't. Which we have done plenty of. And you adopt it, you got to go out within 14 days of the adoption to be notified out in the 5 places, I think it is. And then within 44 days, you get a petition, you gotta do your special meeting or the vote within 60 days and no less than 30. If you don't get a petition, then it's live. It's like, just like what we did the last time. The thought, and Dan, this was after we talked, so the thought was that I had was to put it on town meeting and have the people vote and it's done, but that doesn't work that way. You still have to do it. But you could use it as a article of, you give the option of what the amendment is. The people vote yes for that amendment or they vote no for it. And then it's more or less, we are saying that if you vote yes for this or vote no, we're gonna take your opinion, we vote and change or not change on that part. And then that time frame will start over like that. So say we had an amended ordinance for town meeting day.
Right, we changed the
got voted,
times and we
yeah.
changed we added in the
And it was-
state new guidelines and rules.
And it was on the warning as yes or no for this, and it passes. Then on our next meeting, either that day or the next one, we adopt it, and then it goes through that thing.
Yeah, but you've missed, the planning commission has to have,
They don't have to. They can give us the amendment and we can adopt it as that. The planning, you don't have to do the whole notice and all that with the planning commission. And an ordinance is on the board. The select board does the ordinance.
correct, but the planning commission should have at least a hearing. I'll say.
But they've had the hearings.
So we're saying just,
There
yeah,
have been.
So
but we adopted the ordinance, so the ordinance is set.
Yeah,
Any
they've
changes?
done public meetings for people to come and talk. You don't have to have a hearing. Those hearings come into effect after the ordinance is adopted. And there's a petition.
if there's a petition, then they have hearings and discussions, right?
Yeah.
And then they change it.
All right. Who's gonna write this up? Because I have no time to do this.
Well, Dan, my vision is the planning commission gives us the amendment
Right,
and we agree or make changes. However, I think it's gonna be, we agree with what the amendment is and we adopt it. Or it goes on the warning.
So, yeah.
So we had meetings, there weren't specially warned meetings, but they were in our agenda that we were talking about the ordinance. So that did happen on that front, and we did have a couple of them. And I think we're at a point where we have the ordinance amended in the guidelines as the state would like. So what I'd like to do is our next meeting, touch base with the new members, because I'm the only one that exists on that board from that time, and touch base with my new board members and make sure we're all on the same page. And then hand it over to the select board. So the select board, like Phil was saying, can do as they wish with it. And I think personally, I think it's a great idea to ask the town whether they want it amended at all, or or just leave it as is? And that could essentially be the question.
And the only thing we have to note on the warning is saying that this is a non-binding vote
Yes.
on the warning for town meeting day.
We just give us.
Bill, couldn't you just actually just ask, shall the voters of Coventry vote to amend the current ATV ordinance? And
No.
it'll be a yes or a no question. And if they vote yes, then the planning commission's a go. If they vote no, then you're kind of wasting everybody's time.
So according to, I reached out to VLCT today, and what I went over is what they told me, is that the ordinance can only be adopted by the board.
Yeah.
And I can send you this if you want. Because I asked that, she said a townwide vote would be legally non-binding and advisory. It may confuse voters, I recommend following the process that is set by statute for adoption of an ordinance. A townwide vote would be legally non-binding and advisory. So in lieu of a townwide vote that is not envisioned by statute, I recommend holding several public forums on the topic at either regular or special select board meetings and or put out a public poll topic. She went on a little more, and then I asked a specific question. I said, well, what if we put it out to get our poll at town meeting of the particular one we're looking at? She said, you can do it that way. You just need to make sure people understand that that is a non-binding vote, and the board still is the one to do the adoption, and it's got to go through the same process. Now, while she's sending me those back, I'm trying to figure out how Derby or Holland did it, because that's how they did it, unless it was the same way and it still had to be adopted. But
So can that poll be sent out with the ballot, or would that have to be a whole separate mailing?
The question would be on the ballot.
at that point, it wouldn't be on the ballot for town meeting.
No.
Because you don't want to confuse people and think that they're making that decision. Like VLCT said, they want to make sure that they know it's a poll and that it's for informational. If it's on the ballot, people might think that they're making this decision that's binding.
I guess
What
that's-
we may be able to do is maybe have that on a separate piece of paper possibly. And we can include that if we do the Australian ballot, include it with the Australian ballot with the residents to know you're receiving one, your Australian ballot, two, you're receiving this other piece of paper, indicating your choice of the ATV. These are two things that are separate. We can always, I guess if they want to send that back with the Australian ballot, that's fine. That's just going to go into the box until they're opened up later that night. We should be able to do that, and that will at least just help to minimize costs of two mailings, sort of combine it together into one mail-in. I honestly do believe we are legally able to do that. I will do a quick verification just to make sure, but that may be the smartest route.
So in danger of sounding like I'm kind of wishy-washy here, with what Phil has disclosed, it seems just more upfront to just go with the appropriate process. Don't put it in the ballot. Don't poll it. Issue a warning that the select board is now going to have a couple meetings for this, whether it's before town meeting or after town meeting, just as long as it's done before the season starts, because I think that we might end up confusing people that maybe don't know the whole story about what we need to change and why we need to change it. Like specifically the times and also the way the season is set up, how we don't really have a season set up that corresponds with the trails, and people just might miss that fact. So I think that Phil, like I said, at the expense of sounding wishy-washy here, we just go back to approving what we have through the planning commission, handing it to you guys, and then you go through the process.
No, I get that, and I think where I was more coming from was to do it all at once, kill two birds with one stone, which
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Unfortunately, I guess it's not easy.
Would it make sense to have a special page in the annual report, sort of detailing some of this out, or no? Where you could explain it a little bit further, like Dan was stating, but it's still giving the residents the opportunity, I don't know, to know.
I actually think that's a really good idea for the planning commission page, and we can give them extra space to say, hey, here's one of the big things that's been up over the last couple of years. We're thinking of amending the ordinance based on times, dates, and some locations, and go with it, that way. And it'll be in the town meeting report, and, people can go from there. And they have full warnings. It's clearly gonna be March, April, May.
I just
So
forwarded you guys all that
in that
response.
sense, should the select board should at least look at the changes and maybe approve that letter being in the planning commission?
Yeah, you guys are gonna have a meeting next week, so by next week, we have our meeting Wednesday. By next week, I can reattend and get the permission from the rest of the board members to show you those changes, and then we can go from there. Is that enough time to have that all done?
Well, next Monday, we're gonna have a special
Yeah.
meeting for just budget only, and if you wanna, we wanna add you to the agenda, and we'll just talk about the ATV ordinance changes, proposed changes, and then we can see.
Yeah, and then we're gonna get a bunch.
No, we're just gonna have the planning commission word it that way.
Yeah,
Planning,
planning commission.
all right,
Yeah.
discussion,
Better.
update.
Correct.
I have,
Yeah, I have it. So moving on, 7B. David wanted to talk about the letter from
So-
New England Waste Services.
to New England Waste Services. I'm just curious on that.
Which letter are we talking about?
The one from Dins, two Dins. New England Waste Services about the reappraisal request.
Are we talking about the public records
The
request?
public
Yeah.
records request.
Is that?
Oh, the letter that's been.
Yeah, I don't want to
Yeah,
talk
it's
about the
public-
letter itself.
it's
I'm
public
just
records
curious.
request.
I was never made aware that a letter was in the process in any way, shape or form until December 29th, the day it was due.
So that's been something that's been working directly from the lawyer and Ned,
Yeah.
from my knowledge, that
And there
they're
was
just,
another one sent.
all
out.
it is.
But
I
how
didn't
did you
even read
have the
it.
emails?
I think you should have had them too.
Yeah.
Dave, so Ned has forwarded them to us. I haven't gotten them directly
None of these lower emails I had seen until you sent it to me. You were like the last one in that chain.
from Ned.
This is the email you replied. You were the last email on the chain. You had these last two, you apologize for the email. Then you had this one, hi Al. That was 29th.
Yeah, so.
So,
keep
all
going,
right,
Keep going.
all right, hang on.
So Ned,
So that's the one I saw. That was the
yeah, and that's
29th.
the one I saw.
That was the date of letter. Then how did you have these?
I have from him, because it's just Zach and Ned on here. I've been working with Zach on getting records,
For,
so, for this public records request that's been out. And then Ned and Zach have been working on that.
I didn't know you were working.
Yeah, that was at the last meeting. we
So
spent-
the last meeting and the meeting before that, because we got the request back Thanksgiving.
It's been a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
Seems to make no sense to me to get something on the 29th, the day it's being approved. And so,
Well, that's why I asked the question when I did, because you were gone. They sent it on Christmas Eve, right, to you, if you follow the dates. They sent that on Christmas Eve, and then the due date was the 29th, but I think you were gone and you might not have
Oh,
gotten it.
I was checking those emails because I knew Zach was putting together stuff anyway.
Because I got it, I read it, I got it on the 29th, and I read through it and saw that there was a due date of the 29th, and that's when I asked the question. And then I realized they had.
I was just wondering, I hadn't seen those until you sent.
There'll be more going out soon enough.
I didn't realize it was, I was the same way, I didn't realize it was there.
Okay, any other discussion on that? Hearing none, warrants.
Same old stuff, different day.
I have one quick question for Dan, Mr. Rondo. You have your meeting Wednesday night. I am still waiting for 2 W-9s, one from Zach and one from Amanda. I would really, really like to be able to get their 2 stipend checks out of my folder. I don't know if that's something that you can possibly, are you folks meeting in person or are you folks still remote?
We meet in person and whoever wants to show up, shows up. And whoever
Okay.
wants to be remote, but we can have those W-2s there and available.
The W-9s, that would be.
Sorry, W-9s.
perfect. Yeah, no, that's fine. So they are the only two. Everybody else has received their stipend. I just haven't received theirs yet. So if I could get Zach's and Amanda's, that would be awesome and I'd greatly appreciate it.
Okay.
David, this one's for you. Question, so you have the estimator. Well, Deb too. There's primary store receipts.
The who?
The primary, yeah, there's two. And
So what were the?
oh, there's a credit. I missed that one. I answered the question.
There was, how come there was two? What was it?
So it looks like they charged for 325 twice, or they charged it on accident. And then credited it.
So how about that was?
Farmyard, they were two rentals and then one fuel charge.
So. Here, it's so freaking small.
What's it?
This one's 10.5, and it says it was delivered to Coventry Station. And that's fuel. And this one is 10.21 for 400. And then another one on 10.21 for 325. And then credit for 325. So there's.
The ones that are crossed through, those are invalid. The only three that need to be paid are the 2 400s and then the one for either 2048 or 4028 or something like that.
Because there's no delivery, deliveries on there. Job address. 227 Coventry Station. This one is, yeah, it's not even, you can't make sense of
I
it.
saw this in the one. It's late. I don't know. It's the only ones I could think of was slow.
October 5th is one, and then October 21st is the second. They both have cleanup. Funny thing is, there's no fuel for the second.
This is the station.
That's what, yeah, because there's a line on it for the Coventry Station. But the other one doesn't have them. So they're just food.
I took it somewhere. I didn't have the time frame.
Did you have, yeah.
Would have been
This is
two
like
consecutive
2 weeks
days.
in a row, or 2
Oh.
weeks apart.
Let me reach out.
So we want to hold off on that one then?
One of them.
One of them's true, but it's a single check, so we have to hold the whole check. Let's hold it. It's just me.
Sorry, no, I did see that.
That's the only question I had on it, because that didn't make sense to me.
I didn't understand, I don't understand what they're doing.
There's no, so there was a miscellaneous line item that they put where the delivery was going, and then the second one didn't have anything. You work at your house again.
No, I wanted to. I wanted to clean out Rebecca's ditch.
So there, let me look at the job address.
How are we doing next door with the heat and all that stuff?
we need to, that was another thing that I was gonna bring up, is we need to figure out what's going on. I have a email out to Brian to find out what sort of letter do we need to give to Brian to make sure we're saying we're taking the acquisition, sort of the closing of it, or the final
So does
closing.
Kirsten still work for Brian? There's a Kristen that I dealt with on that.
Yes,
Well, I sent her an email a month ago to ask her the proper fucking procedures on that. And I never got a thing about it. I read the lease, we were supposed to send out a letter on it. I never heard a damn thing about it. And here we are still fooling around with it. This guy wants to unload it. He should be mad, and we should.
Can you call Brian instead of
I'll
emailing?
call Brian tomorrow, find out what else going on.
Should have been done, but you know.
So that first one has on here, Coventry Station Road, log cabin on that before railroad tracks. I don't know where the log cabin.
Wait a minute.
Log cabin for railroad tracks.
There's a trailer before the railroad tracks.
Oh, I know it was, it had to have been Bugs Cove.
Because then the second one has job address and date.
Yeah, Paquins is the delivery to, Falmouth Station. That one, the log cabin sounds like a river down by Bugs.
That would make more sense now. Yeah, they have
A lot of research. Yes, it was, yeah, because I did that, that's right. Approved it. I
So
did-
that would have been the 1st of October. Patrons would have been
I did the culvert by Bugs Old Camp, and then I took the, culvert out of, Dan Webster's.
That was the question I had. I'm gonna
Yeah. I remember that.
make the motion to approve the warrant of the Big AP, Gentleman the last key.
Just make sure we have 2 signatures at least.
Why?
So you don't get them back next meeting.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was motion for to approve all warrant payroll.
Yes. And I just laughed, but that's all.
I don't,
Oh,
Those
yeah,
are delicious.
please take them home.
one's enough.
Yeah, it's. Yeah, would you like some extra
Only three
fudge?
signatures, really?
Were you talking to me, Ned?
Yes, the fudge, maple fudge, would you like some?
No, no.
I am all set, but thank you.
Right, try to give it away.
Okay.
All right. I'll leave it for Deb Lucas, you'll love it.
Oh, they'll like you for senior meals.
All right, there you go.
74,000, this guy's gonna be happy. I'll sign that.
Yeah. Thank God John does not see what happens at about 11:15 and between 11:15 and about 12:30 every day with Jan and his guys.
Right?
He takes them to lunch at Martha's.
He does?
He does.
Well, he can afford to.
I'm just, every time I see them, and they just nonchalantly walk down there and
They're
they,
gone for an hour and a half.
no, hour and a half, having lunch, nonchalantly come on back.
So did you get to talk to the cleaning lady?
I haven't had a chance to talk to Kelly. It's on my list here.
I did talk to her. What the heck came out of it? I told you what came out of it when I talked to her. I came over here.
I think she's amenable to that stuff, but we gotta put together a list of what we need. And as Deb has
So,
said,
okay, so that's what it is. So when she dropped down to 700,
right,
it wasn't particular, it was more or less, she wasn't gonna do the gym very much
correct.
Oh, because no one. was
because no
using it.
one was using it.
Oh, we never.
So we never
had
went
the
back up and we
discussion.
never did the session to go back up.
Yeah,
The kitchen, I find interesting on the complaints because that kitchen's not used by
It's-
anyone but
yeah,
them,
it's-
so.
yeah. It's either me or Deb Lucas or Deb, okay?
So I think we need
I don't
to,
really use the kitchen.
you
No,
know,
But I'm just saying that they claimed messes that are in there.
I use the fridge.
Yeah, not really in there. Now,
so I think we need to revisit the
The contract.
contract. Plus, we gotta revisit the contract, and I had a discussion with her on that, is she is no longer operating as 3Cs.
Correct.
We had an L under her name on a different
yeah,
EIN.
yes.
So we do need to, and she's completely fine with having to update that, the contract to what it is now.
And I already have her updated W-9 with her personal social security number.
Okay, so there's really not
So
much,
that's what the 1099 will go out to.
I just want to review.
just need to update the contract.
Okay, so warrant to sign number 8. Minutes, December, approve the minutes of December 2021 meeting. Copy of it.
Ambulance service contract, there you go, 36,454.
Yeah, I knew that. That's where I got that number from.
Okay.
What did Brian say about um, Jim Cobb directing water and fill into that lady's?
Yeah, I'm making that.
You're gonna
number too.
call
I'm
Ryan.
gonna call him, drainage.
Does he answer your emails?
Brian
Right.
instantly.
Must be the only one who wants to do. I've emailed him a couple times in the past, and I don't know.
And that is a son of a bitch, you know. So I know it was better than a month ago.
Yeah.
I emailed her.
You want to go right through him though? She probably
Because I
doesn't
know
work.
that Lee's, I know that Lee's. Because I work on
What's name?
uh,
Next door name.
Kimball.
Speed signs, because I see it on here.
Yes,
ATS variable message boards, all traffic solutions. Check with them. I'm gonna forward this to you. This guy reached out to me. I haven't done anything, but there's
not for the
apparently a EMPG grant, which I could check on because the EMPG comes from state and they have a different thing.
yeah, but is that a speed sign or just
That's all kinds of different signs you can get through them.
no, oh, you're, okay, all right.
This particular company has all
Yeah,
kinds of.
no, I
signs.
know they have all sorts of signs, yeah. Actually, we can buy it through the state's contract, whatever, price we get from 3 or 4 people, whatever it is.
Save the money. Save the
I
money.
make a motion to approve the minutes from the December 20th.
I'll second it. Save money and do what?
All those in favor? Aye.
Save the money and make that Jen's raise.
Oh. Now I get it.
The executive session,
Yes.
we don't need it. We haven't gotten enough back from Zach yet, and it was just to strategize about
No,
what's going on with the public information request.
I have a few things I want to discuss.
Okay.
Personnel and executive session. So
Okay,
I'm going to make a motion that myself, the select board goes into executive session. One VSA, is that a dash slash 313?
Just say one VSA 3133.
yeah, that's.
One VSA 3133.
Okay.
I need to read the whole thing? That's what we're written on the.
No, and I did come across the email that we don't have to put in who's attended in there either.
Oh, really? You don't have to?
No, you don't have to. You can invite people
You
in,
can
but
invite people, but you don't have to put the times or the people. So,
Do we need a meeting?
since we're all here, we'll just go upstairs.
All right.
Huh?
okay.
Stay here.
Yeah, because you gotta leave the meeting on.
Okay.
We have to come back.
I'm,
You can pause it though.
I'm pausing it right now, Deb. So-
I do.
So coming out of executive session at 9:44 PM, the board brought Ned Connell in for a performance review. He's worked for the town now for just about a year as a town administrator. And as you probably saw tonight, there's some improvements that we're requesting of Ned, such as, his budget performance and other work-related tasks that are not being completed, and loose ends that need to be tidied up. So we're gonna issue Ned a warning letter on his performance, and hopefully we'll see some improvement.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. So meeting adjourned.
Motion to
Motion
adjourn the meeting, second.
second.
That's, okay, and recording at 9:46.